The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
If you really want to doge, this is how you doge. You don't vote for bad legislation that expands government. Thank you.
Now we're talking about taxpayer money, and we're talking about accountability. It is their money. This isn't a government program we're actually spending on. We're actually giving it back to the people of Idaho.
There's other options for making our ballots more secure, such as using watermarks or putting holograms on the ballots.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
I asked the question rhetorically, if we gave them another $1 billion, they wouldn't be happy. Well, we've given them $2 more billion, and it's not enough.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
Other states like Texas and Florida have enacted similar laws to address illegal immigration, both locally and in their communities. And Idaho has the right to protect itself when the federal government has failed to do that.
COVID presented us with quite the enigma. We didn't really know what it was or what to do, but that is no excuse to violate the rights of the citizens of the state of Idaho.
I say vote no on this and let the teachers teach and quit bringing in coaches to teach the teachers to teach, and let's get education going again in Idaho.
I don't know what's coming after this current administration for the feds, and we need this law because our federal laws on immigration have failed.
Mr. President, I think it's incumbent upon us to allow parents to use their hard-earned dollars to provide what's best for their children.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
My concern is that the resilience of Idahoans who believe in self-reliance and self-responsibility will be eroded.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Yeah, watch it.
Come on, guys.
Will unlock the machine, and the members will cast their votes. Has every member voted? Green. We're all asleep today. Does any member wish to change their vote? Clerk will lock the machine and record the roll. 66 ayes, 2 nay, 2 absent, and excused. Majority having voted in favor of House Bill 603. House Bill 603 is passed House. Correction title.
No correction of title.
Hearing none, the title is approved. Bill will be transferred to the Senate. The House will now have before it House Bill 689.
Well, good morning, everybody out there in Idaho land, Idaho Signal land. Matt Edwards is with you. And that's me. February 24, 2026. Welcome to the program. We are looking at the House floor here as they pile away through some bills. Looks like Representative Clay Handy is coming up here to do House Bill 689, which would amend an existing law to revise a provision regarding an administrative subpoena. Sounds riveting. We're not gonna listen too much to these current bills, but we'll check in on some of the ones that we expect to have some important debate on. Earlier this morning, as we were going on the air, they did pass what was it? House Bill. I got my pages all screwed up here. House Bill 548. There's the vote. House Bill 548. We watched some of this in committee. Representative Kyle Harris's bill on making sure that your Fourth Amendment rights of search and seizure and that sort of thing are extended to boating, to boats when you're out on the road. I mean, when you're out on the lake or the rivers, on the waterways. If law enforcement wants to board your boat, they have to, and stop you, they have to have reasonable suspicion to do so. It's not necessarily quite probable cause, but they need to have reasonable suspicion to pull up alongside you and find out what's going on and go on your boat and so forth. So that passed unanimously without the two absences there, 68 to zip. But I remember being in committee and watching that, and there was a lot of questions about like, well, maybe what if they're just there to do a safety check, as if that's a good enough reason. I mean, do police pull you over to just inspect the safety of your car? No, they have to have reasonable suspicion to pull you over because they think that you had some sort of violation of some sort of ordinance or crime. You can't we don't just pull people over. So that right now extends to those of us and those of you out on the boat as well. The other interesting one was what was it? House Bill 570, reckless driving, that passed. House Bill 561, or no, that's in the general orders. I'm telling you, I'm all screwed up this morning. There it is. What was it? It was the one about being able to take out coyotes and wolves and red foxes from an aircraft. So if you're out there and you're one of those folks who's taking care of the exploding coyote population, they passed a bill this morning so that you can do so from an aircraft. And I hear whispers of Creedence Clearwater Revival in my ear now as I think about you out there shooting wolves from your helicopter. Anyway, let's move on, folks. Yesterday in the House Business Committee, we'll keep tabs on the floor if anything else pops up, but yesterday in the House Business Committee, the committee got going around 1:30 Mountain Time yesterday, and they dealt with a couple of bills regarding immigration and the illegal workforce in Idaho. And we carried it live. We decided to just throw it on live. So if you were with us yesterday, you watched the entire thing. We're going to replay some of those clips. But for those who are here to get caught up on the news of what's going on, we're going to get to that. So first, let's set the stage here, because E-Verify, if you don't know by now, is a nationwide database system that the federal government has made available to employers across the country to be able to check to see if the information that a prospective employee is putting down on their I-9, on their forms, is valid. And so it's a basic, simple thing. Many people will discuss it, but here is a map currently of the states that deal with E-Verify and the different ways that they do deal with it. So as you could tell, Idaho is in that pink zone right now, which means that the states require that public employers use E-Verify. So that means your state governments, all the different agencies that are connected to the government, if they are hiring people, they will run them through an E-Verify system to validate whether or not the information that they are supplying is valid and proves that they are or backs up the assertion that they are a legal citizen, or at least legally allowed to work in the state of Idaho. And so you can see how the other states that are there: Minnesota, Indiana, Texas, Oklahoma, a few in the east, the Virginias, Pennsylvania. Those are for public employers to use. The only states that have mandatory E-Verify, meaning every employer across, in some fashion, across the state, is required to run their employees through an E-Verify system. Most of the South has that. You can see there. And then over in the West, where we are, Utah and Arizona. Arizona, if you recall, is a state that was used as an example by the folks over at Secure Idaho, in terms of they were very cautious, they were very apprehensive about it. There was a lot of pushback on using E-Verify in Arizona, and what would it would do to the construction, to the agriculture industry that's there, the dairy. They have a dairy industry. What would it do to their industry over there? And Arizona was used as an example that once they did implement E-Verify, that the 10 or 20 years later since they've done it, they haven't suffered the ill wills that are promised to us by the folks who are lobbying against E-Verify continue to do so. So this is the makeup here. We're trying to make, I don't want to state it this way, so I'm not going to, but we're trying to just change the color of the map there for Idaho and make it be one that is mandatory E-Verify altogether. So that's what Representatives Jaron Crane and Jordan Redmond were doing in the House Business Committee yesterday. Representative Redmond is also the chairman of that committee. And so he left his chairman seat to go out there and present this bill. But there were many questions that the committee had. This is a huge committee. I believe there's 18 people on this committee, 16 Republicans, 2 Democrats. So it's a large committee. There was a lot. It was a lengthy committee hearing. This bill took up the bulk of that time. And so we have a few clips that we want to get to. One of the committee members is Representative Brent Crane. And let's start off with some of his lines of questioning here for the sponsors of the bill.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Redmond. On page 2, line 17, you're outlining, it looks like, a government identification document bearing a photograph or a biometric identifier. What is the need for a biometric identifier?
Redmond. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, Representative Crane. So it is a photograph or biometric identifier. That would be, I guess, if they did not have a photo ID.
Follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Redmond. So towards the bottom of page 2, top of page 3, you give other things, social security card, a birth certificate, valid passport, but you don't have a biometric identifier in that portion of the statute. So why is it not acceptable down in that portion of the statute?
Representative Redmond. Thank you, Chairman and Representative Crane. I believe it could be acceptable there. However, we have the valid IDs, the photo identification, just don't have it there as far as the next part of authorization. Follow-up, Representative Crane?
Chairman, and so Representative Redmond, so what are you envisioning biometric would be? Would it be a scan of your fingerprint, a scan of your eye? Is it a unique identifier that's handed out by the government to individuals? What is the bio-identifier?
Representative Redmond. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bio-identifier that I would envision would probably be a fingerprinting. Follow-up, Representative Crane?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I and Representative Redmond, I'm sympathetic to your legislation. I'm very concerned about the biometric identifier. With it not being defined, we're in a brave new world. And so this gentleman has some concerns about that, and you and I can talk offline. I don't want to hold up what you're trying to do, but I think that's something we might want to chat about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative. Respond to that? Yeah. I'm happy to talk offline and come up with a solution for you.
Okay, let's jump over to Kyle Harris, Representative Kyle Harris here, but I believe his comment might have addressed some of this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for a comment on some of the questions that have been coming up, I dug into the biometric part of this bill, and that is actually a process that happens at the very beginning stages of the visa process, where the federal government requires you to sit down and take fingerprints, photo ID, and then they run that through the FBI's background check to see if you're actually a criminal in the country you're coming from. So that's where the biometric part comes into this bill. And then to touch on, the guy mowing your yard, that would be considered a subcontractor, and as such, they are not your employee. They're a subcontracted business to come do work for you, which would not be under this bill if I read it correctly.
Yeah, so very good answer. Very quick research done there by Representative Harris to look into that biometric aspect of it. And then the final comment there was in regard to another question that Representative Crane had asked regarding is a homeowner supposed to be e-verifying a lawn care service or some sort of some sort of tradesman that may come to their home to do work, even if it's over a short period of time. Are they too required by this bill to do E-Verify? And that, of course, was answered or dismissed here by Representative Harris. That came up quite a few times where people thought like, oh, now that I'm an employer of somebody, that I'm hiring them for a service, that I have to now check to see if they are illegally here or not, and do E-Verify. Otherwise, I'm going to be in trouble. And I found those to be very big, bold straw man arguments. I mean, it was like, who you're not an employer. You're not hiring them for your business. You are hiring them for a service. And those are two distinct things. So some of these, like I said, straw man arguments that come up, they've really frustrate me. And I commend these folks that sit up there and listen to those things and don't react the way I would react while I was watching it live. Representative Cornell Razor also had a response to some of those claims. Let's watch that.
Representative Razor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like us to note that Idaho has robust statutes already dealing with false reports in Title 18, 5400. So that's already covered. And because of the willingness of the sponsors to work on the floor, I will be supporting the original motion as well.
Oh, wrong clip. That's okay. My fault. I didn't identify the right clip. But he had a response earlier to something else as well. So no worries there. But he certainly looked good, and I'm glad he supported. He did end up supporting the bill. Let's just jump over to some of the comments that were coming from the audience, the testifiers, because what this really comes down to, folks, the heart of the matter here is what is illegal. Undocumented workers, what is it actually doing to our state? What are the ramifications and the things that are happening to us, to the people who are either trying to work, and I'm gonna let this testifier do this first, and then we'll comment after, because I don't want to steal any of this thunder. But this was a testifier who from the construction world. And he appeared before the committee yesterday. Watch this.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee. Thank you. My name is William Mostaller. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran. I served Iraq, Afghanistan with 3rd Lateral Reconnaissance Battalion. I survived multiple IED blasts and injuries such as traumatic brain injury. Construction has been the trade that's allowed me to rebuild my life. I have worked in the trades since 2003. I've raised 6 children and a family on a single income. My children have wanted for nothing. Over the last several years, I've watched as it has become harder and harder for tradesmen to not only obtain good quality work, but they've had to fight over these scraps that are left behind, where new construction and larger builders than myself have switched to mostly illegal labor. This has created quite a strain, especially in the Magic Valley. I know many tradesmen who are sitting at home right now that cannot get work because other people are fulfilling those jobs. This isn't just about wages, it's also about quality of work. I have personally seen serious code violations, dangerous installation tied to illegal crews that did not understand building standards. I have seen structures completely reframed because they were unsafe to go into. I have watched improper installation of systems that caught fire, and I have personally put those fires out. Idaho families deserve safe and strong homes built by trained workers who are here legally. HB 704 simply requires employers to verify legal work authorization.
Mr. Mostaller, if I could have you wrap up, please.
Yes, sir. I just ask you to please support this bill.
Thank you for your time.
You know, as we gather all of these stories that are coming here, and there was plenty of folks up there in support of this bill who you know, this, if you were to stereotype, then you would say, oh, they're against this bill because they're for, you know, they're hiding in the shadows, wanting to help support illegal immigrations like Estela Zamora. But there's real people out there that are affected by this, and those are it was brief, but those are powerful words. I mean, just those images right away. When we were putting these videos and sharing this across social media, ever since these bills have debuted, these people have been in the comments talking about what they've seen at construction sites or what they're seeing in these areas that have undocumented workers. And in fact, that person right there was he commented online on an X post that we made last week, voicing some of these frustrations. And so this is a real thing, and it's dealing with real people. And the fact that this industry, and this is some of the clips that we don't have, but some of the things that they kept saying yesterday was that oh, they don't have time. They don't have time to if this bill passes, they're going to lose. They're only going to have 5 months to implement E-Verify and prepare for the onslaught of resignations and people running for the hills because they're here illegally. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry, but the dairy industry and all of these industries that are propped up by undocumented illegal workers have had years to figure out how to do this thing, how to respond when the hammer comes down and these people are removed and deported back and told to come back through proper channels. Okay? You've had years to figure it out. Don't tell me that they only have 5 months to figure it out. You know when the last big warning bell should have gone off in their offices was November 5th, 2024, when President Trump won re-election. Was that November 5th? What was the date? I want to get this right. But it's when he got elected. You knew that this was coming. And sure, he's played lip service to the industries, you know, for the last year and a half now, or the last year or so, talking about how, well, this isn't a priority. We're not going to go into the farms and just take everybody away. We understand that all of this stuff is being propped up right now by a lot of this illegal workers. But that's the dirty little secret, is that they just want it to keep going. And you've heard from that testifier there, the ramifications of that. We see it in our schools. They're fighting to just count. There's bills out there that just want to count how many undocumented families have children in the public school system. All they want to do is count them to see how much of a strain it's putting on our public resources. And people are fighting against that. No, don't count them. Don't count them. Oh my God, what are you, a Nazi? You're counting people now? No. We're counting them so we know how much money is being spent on them. This is our tax dollars, right? They want to find out how many of them are going through the hospital system. Why? Why do you want to count? Why do you want to count them? You're counting them so you know how much money you're wasting and spending, because these people should not be here. This is a no-brainer, an absolute no-brainer. Let's give it back to Representative Redmond here. I think we have one more clip. Let's watch him. Actually, the dairyman guy. Here's one of the, and he's probably a nice guy. I don't want to use the term villain. I'm not going to call him a villain because he's a nice guy. But let's watch the dairyman, the back and forth here. Let's watch this with Kyle. I think it was with Kyle Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Narabout. So while we're sitting in limbo waiting for the federal government to act, and arguably this bill doesn't have anything to do with immigration, it just has to do with enforcing laws in this country that we have that prevent you from hiring illegal immigrants. So while we're waiting in limbo for the federal government to do something, are we supposed to continue to allow people like the dairy industry to just flagrantly break the law?
Mr. Narabout.
Chairman Wheeler, Representative Harris. First, I'd like to correct the record that our dairymen do not flagrantly break the law. We complete I-9 forms just like every other employer, and we don't believe it should be on the employer to verify legal status of an individual in country. That should fall on the government, not an employer. Secondly, I would point towards in the transcript of the interview I referred to with President Trump.
Wait, pause that. Pause that. Back it up a little bit. Back it up a little bit. I want you to hear what he just said. Back it up.
Of the interview.
Yeah, back it up to where he's talking about how it's the job of the federal government, which is true, but let's watch.
To verify legal status of an individual in country, that should fall on the government, not an employer. Secondly, I would point
folks. That is not what we're asking employers to do, to whether or not these people should or should not be in the country. Okay. Of course, that's not the employer's job is to go enforce illegal immigration. The employer's job is it's illegal to hire somebody who is here illegally. So it should be the employer's job to make sure that they're following the law. And E-Verify is a tool in that tool chest to figure it out. Continue.
Script of the interview I referred to with President Trump, he was bluntly asked the question, do you feel like ag workers and those in critical industries should remain in country, and have you asked your agencies to limit their enforcement? And he bluntly answered, yes, I have. So I would suggest we follow President Trump's lead, allow him the space to work on this, and allow there to be a federal fix come forward.
Follow up,
Representative Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So does the dairy, ag, any construction industry across the state in Idaho, but speaking to dairy specifically because that's who you represent, do they knowingly employ illegal immigrants in the state of Idaho?
Mr. Nerbau.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Harris, no, we do not knowingly hire undocumented or unauthorized individuals in the state.
And the reason why Harris is laughing there is because that's a lie. That's a lie. Like literally 2 years ago, his father, I believe it's his father who's also a lobbyist. I could be wrong on that, but I believe they share the same name. Was there admitting that they know that 70% of their workforce would fail an I-9 audit. An I-9 audit meaning your I-9 form is the form that you fill out under penalty of perjury, provide documentation, you provide your driver's license. There's all sorts of different things you can provide, a passport, a visa, a driver's license, all sorts of things to prove that you are an American citizen. Anytime I've been hired as an employee, I've had to provide those things. You've had to as well. Make sure your first day of hire, make sure you bring your ID, bring your birth certificate, bring your residence card that shows you how much you pay in utilities. I mean, there's all sorts of documentation that you have to bring as an American to prove that you are an American citizen. And they say 70% of their workforce would fail if someone were to audit all of that documents. I would pass because I am a citizen. You pass because you are a citizen. I'm assuming if you're watching this program. So to be asked that question, does your industry knowingly hire? And he goes, no, they don't. Why? Because they don't verify anything. All they do is accept the documentation, right? All they do is accept the documentation. It's like you need what's this guy? There's a guy that just was over in Pennsylvania that was walking into job placement companies and asking them, it was a Haitian community, and asking them, how can I get a job too? Can I go through this Haitian workforce thing? I'm going off on a tangent here. We'll post it. I actually posted it last night when the thing dropped. But that's a scam here. That's a total scam. So disingenuous. So disingenuous. That dairyman's lobbyist. They don't knowingly. Why? Because they refuse to look. Nope, we don't want to use E-Verify. We don't want to actually do it on our own where we verify the documentation. We just have them come in. They give us their ID. They give us their social security number. They give us all these documents. We assume they're not lying. They sign a piece of paper that says under penalty of perjury, And we don't ask, don't tell. Don't ask, don't tell. That's the policy. It's not about sexual orientation anymore. It's about illegal status. These people have had years to figure this out. And we're gonna touch on a little bit. Oh, here he is. You guys are great.
Keep that employee hired.
Listen.
And so employer has a choice. You either got to get the correct information if it's available, or you cannot keep that employee hired. And so I would tell you 90% no, somewhere around 70%. I mean, we're always trying to be straightforward and honest about this, because when I'll give you the best example I possibly can give you. When we're in DC lobbying on immigration need for reform, I give them the same numbers I just gave you. Congressman Labrador was up north, and he made a statement, and the statement was that 90% of the labor force in Idaho was on dairies was not legal, which obviously I've given you that 90% number. There was an AP reporter in that room, and I got a call almost instantly, and he says, will you confirm what Senator or Congressman Labrador just said? And you take a breath, and you have told Congressman Labrador all the facts. And I said, well, I think his numbers are a little high. I'll put it at 70%. And that's what I'll tell you. I think it's about 70% based on the data we have.
Follow up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Nair. So is that not being enforced then by our federal government? Or, I mean, because I think illegal is, how does that work?
Mr. Chair and Representative Scott, great question. This is a federal government issue. And because of what was happening in I-9 audits, we do try and have a good rapport with ICE, as strange as that might sound to people, because we have to understand where we're at and what we need to do. And here's a comment from ICE, and it was Special Agent Cross, and this is 6 or 7 years ago, so it's not like it's recent. And he looked at our board, because our board was concerned, and he said, I live in a subdivision of Boise. And you have to understand, if we're only looking for those who are here without legal status, I would never get out of my subdivision. When we come to your operations, there's a reason we have a warrant for somebody and want that individual. And so is it a federal government issue? Yes. But do we have to recognize, if you look at the study that came out last week, there's 30,000 undocumented workers in the state of Idaho right now. I would say about 8,000 or 9,000 of those might be involved in agriculture. If it's that high, that means there's 22,000 working in other jobs. So this is broader than agriculture. It's a federal issue, similar as one of the previous testifiers said. It's time for Congress. It's not just President Biden or President Trump or President Clinton or Obama, however far down you want to go. This is an issue they've been ignoring since 1986. The last time we had immigration reform was under Ronald Reagan, and that was 1986.
Folks, this is the dairy industry's own lobbyist 2 years ago. 2 years ago. We're almost at the 2-year anniversary. That was February 28. 2 years ago. He sounded like he was advocating for E-Verify. This is a serious problem. We've been working on it for years. It's what we see what happened back in 1986, he said? And that was a problem that was happening across the country, but also largely in California under Governor Reagan's leadership even beforehand. And you see how well California turned? They don't have E-Verify. Put up the map again. We have that map? Put up the map. No E-Verify in California. No E-Verify in Oregon. Right? Look at that. Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota. Fascinating. Fascinating, folks. Very fascinating. This is a huge problem, and they've had years to figure this out. And we debuted something over the summer. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want you to watch something. After the break, we're going to show you something that we debuted, and we went hard in the paint on this by creating an actual 60-second commercial, a proof of concept, if you will, for the Idaho agricultural industry. We're going to take a look at that right after the break. We'll be right back.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among the world's silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
This ain't no easy ride. Out here, the dirt tests you. The cattle call you to lead. The earth dares you to dig deep. Idaho is where the bold roll up and stake their claim. Roots don't just grow, they sprout. Every blister, every dawn, it's yours. Feeding a nation, forging the way. Start now, sweat hard, and one day, you're the one calling the shots. Americans don't wait, we act. Long days shape you, tough, free, shepherds of a sacred land. This is your birthright. You in? Apply now for a career in Idaho agriculture. Dig in, rise up.
Dig in, rise up. What do you think, folks? What do you think? That ad there could be an inspiration for the folks in the agriculture industry to go out there and recruit hard. Go hard in the paint for your country, for your state, for the people that are born here, for Americans. You know, we keep hearing about generations and generations and generations of people who have settled the West and this country wasn't this. Okay, folks, I'm going off on tangents here. I want you to watch that ad again. Put it up beside me. Let's just have it play on the side here. You can see it. I uploaded it. I want you to take note here that when you are out there advocating for people to come to your industry, you have to inspire them. Okay, you have to give them a positive outlook on what you're presenting to them. You know, make it enticing for people to do it. There is a check it out right there.
This ain't no easy ride.
Okay. The U.S. military will create content for days that recruit people to come into the military and sacrifice their lives, to sacrifice their life for their country, to put their lives on the line. Okay? All we're asking is some quick, this is done with some B-roll footage, a script, some music, some voiceover. This is just one small attempt at trying to show and inspire people to get involved in a rewarding career. Sure, there's a lot of like crap jobs that happen on farms and on ranches and in dairy farms and such. Of course there is. And most people, that's where you start. That's where you start in any industry, the hospitality industry. I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of CEOs of restaurant chains. And they say, I started out as a busboy, or I started out as a dishwasher. That's what America's all about. You start from the ground up. You work hard, and then one day you got your own. But no, this industry just wants to rely on cheap labor. And and then they keep saying, oh, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. It actually costs this. It costs that. It costs so much money. It costs way so much money. Well, if it costs so much money to do that, wouldn't you want to find a better way? A cheaper way? Hire local, right? I mean, if hiring illegals is so much more expensive than just hiring local, then why aren't you doing anything to try and just hire local? So don't give me this garbage. They're two-faced. It's two-faced garbage. It's despicable, really. And these guys have the gall to show up at a press conference and talk about how the state's going to crumble if we get rid of illegal immigration. Meanwhile, like we said earlier, the schools our resources are being wasted there on medical, the health, those photographs of those guys that ICE keeps picking up. Awful. President Trump has a speech tonight, the State of the Union address. And raise your hand if you think he's going to highlight families that have lost loved ones because of illegal immigration, because of some unqualified truck drivers or criminals that have crossed the border. We got something we need to do, folks. All right, let's transition here to a couple things that happened this morning. Over in the Senate side, there was a couple bills, or there was one bill in particular. And again, 1283. This had to deal with reducing regulations on your food, on where you can get your food, how you can store your food, who can give you food. Right. So we're talking about all of these things. Look, there's people out there that are trying to make your lives better. And this was a bill that came through. And we have a comment here from Senator Christy Zito, Senator Josh Cole regarding this bill this morning that passed committee, thankfully. But let's take a look. We'll go with Zito first.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think this is one of the greatest things that we've done in the state of Idaho for a while. I was engaged in the producer to consumer market for over 30 years when I lived in Utah, and we didn't ever have any problem. And I think what we're seeing, and I'm so glad for it, and this bill is a perfect example, government has stepped in and decided that they need to nanny state everything, not everything, but much of what we do in our lives. And I listened to Vivek Ramaswamy one day say the only difference between a conservative nanny state and a liberal nanny state is whose idea it is. And so I'm so glad to see that government can let go, put the trust back in the people, because we really are smart enough to make our own choices and decisions and keep our families happy and healthy. And to be able to go directly to the producer and buy these products and have that trust and faith in them and support our small agriculturalists and our family farms and our cottage industry is just a fantastic thing. And I'm so grateful for this legislation. I fully support it.
Excellent. And then Senator Josh Cole had some remarks on this bill. We'll get into a little bit more of the details on the bill in a minute, but let's take a listen.
Just to speak to the motion a little bit, I really appreciate the sponsor bringing this. I think it's appropriate that Idaho leads the way in food freedom. I've worked many years in food processing. That's my career, so I'll be careful what I say. But modern food processing, the manufacturing system that we have, is not immune to food safety issues. There's recalls all the time, and people get sick going through the process route regularly. So in my opinion, through my experience, I've found that directly to consumer, the fewer hands that are touching that food product in general leads to a safer product. I think we have to lean on the side of freedom in this issue and give Idaho citizens the final say in what they consume. I think that's really important. I think it leads to a more sovereign state. It it does lead to more food security in times of uncertainty. So that is why I'm bringing this motion. That's why I support this legislation.
All right. Thank you, Senator Cole.
Yeah, very good. That was Senator Chairman Tammy Nichols of the Agriculture as well. And this bill moves forward. Real quickly, I'm going to read the statement of purpose. This legislation reduces government regulation concerning the sale of homemade food and non-alcoholic drink products direct to consumers within the state of Idaho. It also reduces regulation by expanding the state custom meat exemption to be any portion size other than whole halves or quarters. So, for instance, many of us out there go out there and get a half a cow or a quarter or whatever, a whole one, and put it in your freezer, get it chopped up, and live life that way. This here would remove the restrictions on only getting it sold that way, and so fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And the provisions of this legislation apply to small-scale individuals and businesses and not the larger-scale commercial food manufacturing and those that are involved in interstate commerce. So the big guys, they've got their system. They're cranking along hunky-dory. It's the small producers and the small consumers that this legislation helps, and we think that's a great thing. So very good. So that was this morning. We just wanted to highlight that for you because I'm all about it. And why am I all about that? Because I enjoy this fantastic new product called American Smoke Company's Smoked Salts. That's why. Check it out. Which one am I going to do? I'm going to do the cherry salts right now. This is the cherry salt. This has a vanilla cherry flavor to the smoke. It's full-bodied. This salt was smoked for 8 hours, and it is a coarse Pacific Ocean sea salt. Can you see the grains falling there? That's how big they are. I mean, those are individual little kernels there, and of salt. And oh man, that's so beautiful. What a beautiful scent. It's an American sea salt company. Americans Smoked Salts right here. You got to go to americansmokeco.com, order a batch of these salts that are smoked with these different woods. This is the cherry salt. So it doesn't taste like cherry. It's cherry wood smoked salts. And we had some steaks last night. Holy cow. I live a good life, folks. If I can have a steak, that means I'm having a good life. And last night I did. So that was fantastic. Oh, boy. Well, folks, no rest for the weary. I don't know if you could tell, I am a little tired, but I'm back on the road again. I'm leaving now, and I will be in the high desert with the High Desert Women this evening out there at 6. Let's see, we're going to get started at 6 o'clock. I think the doors open for a little social hour, and then we'll get started at 6:30. And that's out there in Marsing with the High Desert Republican Women. We'll be hanging out with them. So if you're in that area, I look forward to seeing you come out for that. And so I am going to mosey on out of here and head over to the truck, the car. Let's see. I'll figure out taking the truck over to the airport. Get moving. So leave a message, 208-402-4915. I got a lot to pack already. I was just going through the list. 208-402-4915 is the number. Please leave us your message. We'll play it on the air. Let us know what you think. Especially with this E-Verify thing. It's just absolutely incredible. Idaho Signal, what's incredible is the pushback against it. It's incredible. In IdahoSignal.live, if you want to listen to us with the data, with low on your data, keep your data low. Don't waste all your data just watching the video. Go to IdahoSignal.live and hear the audio on a loop 24/7. 24/7. And the YouTube channel is continuing to grow. We just crossed the 7,300 mark. We were at 2,000 subscribers when we started just 6 weeks ago. And because of your efforts in sharing the broadcast and I guess just the interest in what's going on out here, we have exploded, which means we're doing a good thing. So we want to keep that going. What was the last thing we wanted to go out on? Oh, this horrible news of this attack, this DHS attack on the office, in some sort of office or something out here in Meridian. But they caught her. They caught the crazy woman. The Meridian police released their probable cause affidavit. And I don't know if we have any photos of the woman. You don't have any photos of her? That's all right. But she's one of your classic leftists. But they caught her, which is great. Great to hear. All right, folks. We'll be back later this week. Enjoy the speeches tonight. We got 2 big speeches tonight. Me and Trump. You can't go wrong with that. We'll see you next time.
Stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.